Hi, this is episode 40 of Peace Matters. I'm Marilla Huscha, researcher and project manager at the International Institute for Peace. Today we're discussing the upcoming parliamentary elections in Hungary and the prospects for Viktor Orbán's government after 16 years in power. What is at stake in this election for Hungary? Why is it so important for European politics? And what role do women voters play? I'm talking to Andrea Pető, professor at the Department of Gender Studies of Central European University in Vienna. She's a renowned public speaker, her works have been translated into 25 languages, and she has received numerous awards for her contribution to public life, including the 2022 University of Oslo Human Rights Award. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I'm very happy to have you here, Andrea. We met already 7-8 years ago at a summer school in Poland while I was still a student and you were already a professor teaching history and Holocaust. And it was a very memorable experience for me, so I'm really happy to have you now here as a guest at our podcast show. And we're talking about also a very important topic, an upcoming election in Hungary, and that's a crucial election that's happening in April, on the 12th of April. Viktor Orbán, the Prime Minister of Hungary, has been there for 16 years now. And some say that this time around he's facing a real challenge. So he has real competition, real opposition that might actually win. How do you assess it? Is it really such a crucial, different election from any other that were there before? And should we hope for any other outcome as from the outcomes that were there for the past 16 years?
Thank you for the invitation, and I'm so happy that a former student, grew, and that's the best thing what can happen to a professor, that you see that you have an impact, and in Eastern Europe, in Central Europe, every election is presented as a crucial, as a determining, as a life or death. But actually this time it's really important, not only for Hungary, but also for the whole European Union and also for the global context. And I wouldn't say that this is the first time that there is a real challenger, because previously there has been always lots of hope. Now, this time. So what has changed is definitely that this challenger is coming from the illiberal party. So he's not an outsider, but somebody who is inside, who knows all the tricks and dynamics and strategies which are employed by the illiberals in the past 16 years. So if you follow the campaign in the past 2 years, you see that very few mistakes were made, and that is partly due to the advisors, partly due to the inside information, and partly because of his physical strengths, because doing this campaign requires serious physical strength. He's everywhere. He's going around with a flag on foot, and also mentally, it's really difficult to run a campaign when there are serious accusations, personal, private, and also geopolitically motivated accusations.
Mm. Yes, just to be clear, we're speaking now about Péter Magyar, who has actually, he left Fidesz party, the party of Viktor Orbán, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, so a relatively short period of time, and he founded his own party, TISA, which is now, uniting all the opposition. So if you're saying...
Not necessarily, not all the opposition. Basically that's the main point, that the TISA somehow first eliminated the previous oppositional parties, and very consciously not allied and not taken up any politician who had got anything to do with the politics of the past 16 years. So the first step was that this conservative, Christian conservative party, that's what we are talking about. The TISA is the Christian conservative party, very similar to the PiS.
You mean PiS in Poland?
The PiS in Poland, yes, the PiS in Poland. They first basically took all the space from the leftist parties. And there are some contenders. The contenders include the very far right party. It includes the two-tailed dog party, which is this kind of joke party, but they are doing fantastic work in the different local municipals. And also there is one spin-off party of the previous state socialist party, which is called Democratic Coalition. So there are some other parties as well. But that's actually the main question. If they are running together with the TISA, because the Hungarian electoral system is really very tricky. And the system is not tricky without a reason. The system was designed and tailored and fashioned in the past 16 years by the liberal government to be tricky. So maybe it is worth going through why this is tricky, because it might be very much the case that the popular vote is won by TISA on the 12th of April, but the mandates in the parliament will be taken by the Fidesz. So there were several tricks, including the gerrymandering, which is so much well known, and also the ballots, different, if somebody is not able to go to the ballots, this kind of mobile balloting system. Also the votes of the Hungarians who are living outside Hungary, they can vote by a letter. And this, of course, opens up lots of possibilities for fraud. So there are lots of tools and means besides that, the Hungarian taxpayers' money was very much invested in the past years to support the Fidesz party electoral campaign. So the balance is very much not a balance as far as the resources and access to different platforms are concerned. But this is the system which was developed as a life insurance strategy for the liberals, because there is one thing that the liberals cannot afford, and that is losing a democratic vote. So that the stakes are very high in the national context. In the European,
So maybe, do you think that Viktor Orbán is actually going to, go for another term? Do you think that there is a real chance that he will be, defeated in this election, or it's not really, despite the current polls where Péter Magyar is leading for now, I think by 10%, 11%? Do you still believe that Viktor Orbán will stay in power?
You have to win the election, not the polls. So let's talk about this. On the 12th of April, there won't be any results, but maybe at the end of April, when there will be results, because I'm sure that the different individual districts will be challenged by the different contenders, and there will be recounts. So this will last long. Because the stakes are really very high, and it might be close, it might not be close. So I really don't know, but the stakes are high. First, because of this national context, but also because of the European Union, because the Hungarian liberal politics in the past years did everything to act as a Trojan horse for the Russian politics, and acted as vetoed all possible provisions which could have supported Ukraine or would have kind of sanctioned to different dubious personalities. So in a sense, it basically the Hungarian politics stops the European Union to function efficiently in a very crucial moment in the history. And also, thirdly, the stakes are high because the small, poor, unimportant country positioned itself in the global context as the leader of the illiberal international. So just this Saturday, there was the meeting of the CPAC in in Budapest, the Matthias Corvinus College, which also bought a university here in Vienna. And if the election turns out to be in favor of the liberal government, they will buy 2 new palaces here at the bank of the Danube here in Vienna to build up a new center for promoting illiberal ideas, not only in Austria, but globally. So this kind of very conscious strategic building of alliances all over, not only in Europe, but globally, actually shows an example. So if this can happen to Prime Minister Orbán, then this can happen to other illiberal actors. So this is not only the Hungarian voters who will be watching with lots of anxiety the results, but several politicians, because this is what is coming.
Absolutely. But regardless of whether Fidesz party wins this election or the opposition party, Péter Magyar's party, it looks like the Hungarian parliament will in any case be almost exclusively right-wing. So my question to you is, where is the left in Hungary? Is there any left or what happened to them?
That's a very painful and important question, that how the leftist politics actually lost its relevance, its structures, and also its intellectual force. So I'm also on the academic advisory board of the Foundation of Progressive Studies, which is the umbrella organization of the different socialist and leftist parties in the European Parliament. And we are meeting very often discussing this phenomenon, and the Hungarian case is very similar to the different other Central and Eastern European countries. And that goes back, the reasons go back to 1989, when the different parties of the former Communist Party actually unconditionally supported the neoliberalization of Eastern Europe, which means the economic welfare systems, health system, educational system, and which led to atomization and also lack of trust in the state. And all this hope that after 1989 the life will be better, after the European Union accession in 2004, and later the countries were hoping that their living standard, the citizens were hoping that their living standards will be similar like in the other European Union countries. And what they found is disappointment, impoverishment, exploitation, and unfulfilled promises. So this kind of disappointment was the basis to which actually then the polycrisis came. Then in 2008, the financial crisis, then the war, the climate crisis. I mean, they are all these overlapping crises created a political opportunity for saying something meaningful. Giving a political offer, saying, we are here, we know what are your problems, we know how to solve that. And unfortunately, the illiberal offer was there, but the other offer was missing. And the illiberal offer included, maybe we talk about this later, a new gender politics, security, promoting certain welfare provisions, basically offering security and safety. And the progressive politics was struggling with offering any kind of counter-offer. And besides the neoliberalized version of feminism, saying that you can do it, like lean in, work-life balance, gender budgeting, gender mainstreaming, so all those kind of buzzwords which are coming from the European Union vocabulary, but they are really not talking to the realities of the voters who were suffering really structural inequalities. And then the liberal offer came, and the liberal offer those who supported Prime Minister Orbán in the past 16 years, they are not stupid. They are not deplorables, to call Hillary Clinton. They are not voting against their own interests, but they saw something here which they hope that will make their life better. And there was no authentic leftist offer. And this is also the case today, because the leftist politics is very much confined to intellectual circles, which have got their own debates and different power relations, and the party, the Democratic Coalition, which is now struggling to pass the threshold. So in a sense, what we see now is the long shadow of 1989, and also the, if you ask me as a historian, I would say that because of the forgetting of the roots of progressive politics. Because if you look at the roots of progressive politics, which is going back to the end of the 19th century, this is about equality, about emancipation, about mobilization, about emotions, about understandable symbols. So all these tools, ideas, values, which worked so well for progressive politics in the past 100 years, now appropriated, used, and instrumentalized by the illiberal politics. So this illiberal offer is doing the same thing what the progressive politics should have done if they would have had the bravery to go forward and not only to take into consideration a very limited interest group.
Yeah, it sounds to me from what you're saying that also, the kind of composition of the country also plays a role. If you're saying that the left is confined to this, intellectual circles, then I immediately think about, universities, big cities, globalization, which is mostly related to, urban places. And in Hungary, there is only Budapest, which, corresponds. And the majority of the population lives, in rural areas. So maybe that was also, a beneficial actor for the right. I don't know if you would say that this could be an argument or explanation why the left in Hungary declined.
Yeah, but of course the citizens of other big cities like Debrecen, Szeged, Pécs or Győr, or they would disagree with you, saying that they are proud citizens of that city. But definitely the rural population was somehow forgotten from the elite politics, and somehow the progressive elite believed that through Facebook posts and interviews in some of the TV channels, they can do politics, instead of recognizing there is a paradigm change here. So maybe talk about a little bit about this illiberal politics and the paradigm change, because on the one hand, there is this extreme mediatization, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. On the other hand, the personal connections, these face-to-face connections are getting really, really important. And that's what Péter Magyar recognized. And in the past 2 years, he was campaigning and traveling around the city, getting support from the those who are unhappy with what the illiberal offer produced. So this kind of opposition to the illiberal Orbán government would not have happened if in the past 4-6 years the illiberal politics hadn't had made so many mistakes. Because the illiberal offer actually works in some countries, but in Hungary, because of several reasons, it doesn't work. And some aspects of this, of course, is the gender politics.
Yeah, so maybe let's talk about that a little bit more. You researched it in a lot of detail, and I found it really interesting how actually the government in Hungary managed to use, all the tools of the European Union to actually implement the gender policy, but then with a with the negative promotion of the European Union itself. So it was very strange kind of composition for me. Maybe you can explain a little bit more what this family policy of the government is and how it works.
Mm-hmm. So this illiberal politics, there is nothing new here. And that is really important to stress, and I would like to use this opportunity because the illiberal politics is just using, appropriating, instrumentalizing what is already there. They don't have a single original ideas. And this is also important because if you are reading the press coverage, somehow these illiberal politicians are portrayed as talented, charismatic, fantastically successful politicians, and they are actually not. What they figured out is that that there is a new modus operandi, this illiberal modus operandi, which can help them to capture the state and keep the power and suck all the resources for themselves. So with Weronika Grzebalska, we developed this concept of the polypore state, that this polypore is this mushroom which lives on the trunk of the tree and sucks all the energy and resources from the tree and produces nothing else than polypore. And it doesn't have the wish to kill the tree because it lives from the tree. So when I was participating in debates that will there be a hook sit, and I was saying, I mean, there won't be any hook sit because the illiberals...
Hungarian exit from the...
Yeah, the Hungarian exit from the European Union, because the illiberals need the resources. They very successfully hijack the different institutions, and they can comply what needs to be complied with. So why would they leave? So going back to the family politics, the European Union requires certain gender equality mechanisms in order to send certain money to development money to certain countries. And if you look at the Hungarian government documents, they of course submitted these documents to Brussels, and I'm sure that to the respective DG, the respective section, and I'm sure that the diplomat, the civil servant who was sitting there, happily ticked the box. Hungary complied, and these documents are actually copy pastes from the previous documents. With a colleague of mine, we actually analyzed these documents with Silvia Sobo, and so they comply. They are genus faced. So on the one hand, to Brussels, they are submitting very low quality documents. But if you are following the internal discussion, you see that Brussels is the enemy, gender is the main enemy, this kind of gender equality and gender mainstreaming should be deleted and banned. So this kind of illiberal pragmatism, what the literature calls the illiberal pragmatism. So on the one hand, of course they comply. On the other hand, they use all those concepts, values, which are there for their own purpose to promote their position. This is the modus operandi. So use, instrumentalize, appropriate, because the resources are important, values, concepts are not. So, and that's where when we arrive to the concept of the family friendliness. So if the listeners go to Hungary, what they see is this huge billboards. You are entering to a family friendly country. But what this family friendliness means is first a very successful soft policy, foreign policy tool, because all the previous and present politicians are touring around in different countries, saying that the Hungarian family policy is so successful, and this is something what they can come and tell and share. And this is the Trojan horse of the illiberal politics, that they are using this so-called family friendliness to export those policy provisions, which are partly also coming from Russia. So this is a soft policy tool. Secondly, this is a financial tool to increase consumption, because they use so-called family friendliness to give certain state-supported credits and loans to families with certain amount of children, and that is supporting the consumption based on credits for in a certain area, like buying cars and also in housing. And of course, there is a well-developed oligarch network around the Hungarian government. So that's also something which needs support. And it is also a tool of the so-called family friendliness is also a tool for controlling the public discourse. Because when you say family, you cannot say anything about families, right? But this is not every family. So that's why the literature talks about familialism, because certain families are supported, but some other families are not supported.
What are the criteria?
This is... of course, the government cannot, this is a kind of absurd redistribution of supporting those who are rich and taking from those who are poor. But still, if we are looking at the results of the past 4 years, the recent results of the social stratification survey are just out, we see that the number of very poor increased enormously, the number of very rich decreased from 9 to 5%, and also the middle class decreased, and this kind of lower upper class, which is kind of that increased enormously. So there is this redistribution of the public wealth in a sense that supporting the taking it from the poor and giving it to the rich, who became extremely rich, no matter that their percentage in the society remained small.
So, as far as I understand, the official narrative of this family policy is to solve Hungary's demographic problem. And this is a problem for any European country. The population is declining, the workforce is declining, you need to do something about it. So how does this policy fare against this stated goal? My first question. And the second one, maybe what other ways, if you look at maybe other European contexts, how else you can actually improve the demographic situation?
So this family-friendly policy of the illiberal government has got these functions, which I already mentioned. But there is another one, which is undermining the human rights discourse and promoting a kind of illiberal change in different policy areas. So they are also using the demographic decline, this concept of demographic decline, which has got a long history back to the 19th century, and a very dark and ugly history in the Nazi times. So this kind of extremely difficult and problematic discourse is also used by the different far-right parties. And what we see now is how the liberals are normalizing and mainstreaming those previously unacceptable political concepts like the Great Replacement theory, and this kind of mainstreaming and accepting certain concepts is a part of the illiberal political agenda to somehow redefine what is normal and what is acceptable. So this kind of demographic discourse is, on the one hand, extremely dangerous. On the other hand, it's a very useful tool because it's easily accessible, and it is also exporting concepts from the very far right into the center. And this family-friendly policy, what the Hungarian illiberal government built up in the past 16 years, actually resulted in the most expensive. So if you look at the different, the Hungarian budget, it takes enormous amount of money. And this has got a long shadow because the different supported credits which are taken in the past years will be paid by the taxpayers in the coming times. So this will also have an impact on whoever will be running the country after the election. So this has got this very, very serious impact on the future budget. But the efficiency is extremely limited because the number of births decreased. The number of marriages, though, increased because if there is a kind of tax incentive that you will get married. I mean, it's obvious that the citizens are using whatever way is possible to keep their money in their pockets and not giving it to the state, which is already a way of somehow dismantling the state, which the Liberal government does in several ways in an extremely efficient way to make sure that the public money, the taxpayers' money, is getting into a small group of people who are distributing it to very limited group of others who are selected based on ideological criteria and not on the criteria of universal human rights.
Do you know maybe some other European country where some sort of gender policy actually helped to increase birth rates or helped to somehow, overcome this demographic problem? Maybe is there any good context in Europe?
There are two positions to this. One is that there is no demographic problem, right? So the demographic problem is a result of this form of capitalism, which is based on constant growth and consumption and this extensive increase. And there are others who are saying it's not a rocket science to make sure that, women are happy and families are happy and they are looking happily into the future, make sure that they have got affordable childcare, make sure that they have got affordable housing, make sure that they have got affordable and healthy food, make sure that they have got an affordable and healthy environment. And that's really not rocket science. And interestingly enough, we talked about the liberal offer. The liberal offer at the beginning was really trying to somehow catch this, right, and trying to address these issues. But then, because of several reasons, it did not happen. And by now, we have the Hungarian society, together with, let's say, the Polish, Russian, whatever society, they are in a worse situation than they were before.
Mm. Let me maybe come back to the election campaign. Is there any specific tactic or strategy how to address women voters by Fidesz or maybe by Péter Magyar's party? How do they appeal to them? Because as far as I understand, in the previous elections, women kind of disproportionately supported Fidesz.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so because of this illiberal offer, the liberal offer was extremely appealing to women because of this disappointment in the workplace. The progressive politics only offered the workplace as a space for emancipation. So it promised kind of work as a space where women can get paid and they will be protected and they will have a career. And it turned out that the neoliberalization brought total disappointment as far as the gender pay gap is concerned, as far as the working conditions are concerned, as far as the promise of emancipation is concerned. So in a sense, the liberal offer, which was saying, no, you don't have to go out to work, stay at home, do the care work, we are paying you for that care work, feel happy that you are a part of this family. And if you want, you can go out, maybe work part-time. And this kind of offer was extremely popular for a certain strata of the society. If you have to choose working in 3 shifts in a Tesco counter, traveling there, having a horrible male boss who is harassing you and you don't have anybody to ask for help, or you are staying at home, taking care of your children and your small garden and whatever for the same amount of money, of course you choose that one where you have a certain agency. So family is the place where women have a certain agency. Workplace, they really don't feel that. And the liberals were moving the discourse from the workplace, work-life balance, gender, mainstreaming gender, to a place where women felt comfortable and said dignity, happiness, family. I mean, these are the words which actually resonated with the workers, safety. And this kind of illiberal offer was popular And therefore, there was this disproportionate support of the illiberals by women, which actually made lots of progressive feminist analysts uncomfortable, because you have to explain what the heck is happening here. But what we see now is that this kind of illiberal promise is somehow evaporating, and the constant impoverishment, and especially the corruption, which is systemic in the Hungarian system, and also the lack of the European Union taxpayers' money, has got certain consequences. What we see from the previous elections, that none of the authoritarian, populist, illiberal governments could have changed if there was not a massive mobilization of women. So in Poland, again, it was a massive mobilization of women when the PiS was ousted from the government, and then the so-called re-democratization started in Poland with a very limited result, especially in the field of gender politics. So this will be really interesting for all the analysts and also for the voters, because Péter Magyar avoided to address any kind of issue related to gender equality, and because of several reasons. First, because at the moment he would utter the word gender, at that moment, the whole illiberal propaganda machine would jump on him, because the liberals very successfully used as a gender as a symbolic glue to glue together all those different actors who hate certain groups of the society, and they mobilized certain groups of the society with this bordering that, and to define what is normal and acceptable. And secondly, because he tried to copy the program of the PiS in Poland, speaking about big overarching themes like family, women, dignity. So basically he copied the PiS program as far as replacing the gender equality is concerned. So don't forget that Magyar Péter is a conservative politician, which means that he tries to do the impossible, namely to reinvent a language for describing the problems of the present Hungarian society, which are all gendered, right? The care crisis, the educational crisis, the health crisis, what's happening in the AI. I mean, they all somehow impact the women differently. So therefore, we wrote this book with Zsuzsa Balázs, the Orbán's Women's Affair, Gender Politics, Illiberal Gender Politics, because we thought that, we have to somehow summarize this and also put this up in a kind of understandable way, that there needs to be a discussion, there needs to be an understanding of how to move forward, because Péter Magyar is, of course, keeping his eye on the ball, namely to win the election. And the other problem is that inside his camp, there are already visible cleavages. So how the possible future finance minister looks at the budget and speaks about gender equality is very different than this very dear colleague who is a writer who worked a lot in the northern eastern part of Hungary, who wants to introduce certain state measures to decrease poverty and inequality. So already there is a conflict, and if they win the election, they don't only have to face with the extreme legacy of the liberal politics, namely the structurally embedded illiberal structures, but also the conflicts inside their own camp.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very interesting. And maybe to conclude our discussion, what is maybe one thing that you will be watching in this election? What interests you that maybe we can all, take account of?
One thing, I'm really interested in the performance of the international observers.
Yeah, the OEC is coming, right?
Yes.
To observe.
And of course, the OSCE cannot in the past elections, the OSCE always issued a report, which was saying free but not fair. So I'm very curious that what we'll be doing this time when it's really obvious that the election is not fair by all means, but the question is, will it be free?
All right, so let's stay tuned.
And all fingers crossed and exercise all politically correct magic that this will go well.
Yes. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
This was Peace Matters. If you enjoyed the discussion, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.